and paper because he's going to give you exact spots to go for this weekend's tour. Just to give you all a heads up. This is the one thing I love about when Mike comes and talks. He's not a charter boat captain. He makes money off of you guys fishing, so he's going to give you the exact spot. He's not going to give you numbers. He's going to say this tree by this house or by this gazebo or this dock with this boat on the back of the dock. The whole 9 yards. So, without any further ado, Mr. Mike Mahoney and Mr. Matt Stafford.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what happened today. I was at the Strawberry Festival, me and my buddy Big Sticky and my wife. It was about noon, and I got a call. It was Old People's Day, by the way. It makes me feel good when I go there. But I get a call from a bail bondsman that tells me Mike's sick and not going to be able to make it tonight. That I had to do the speech here. So I don't know what was going on. I'm going to check that paper arrested and see what really happened. He says he's sick, but we're not sure about it. Anyway, I told him I'd come up here. I know I was up here probably 2 months ago, kind of did a different seminar, kind of let everybody ask questions. The main thing tonight is trout. And I brought Matt Stafford. He's best friend, known him since 3, 4 years old, and he's also the manager of the store down there.
And the area supervisor. He's the area supervisor.
Area supervisor, that's right. I'm going to get right into it as far as trout. One of the things, like Tiger said, and you know, me not being a guide, when we're on the radio Sunday, I get a lot of this from the other two guys. Like, come on, give me 1 week. I want you to catch fish. Trout and big trout. What won it last year, big trout? Give me an idea on length.
26. Was it 26? 26.
Right. 26, realistically, can happen anywhere in Tampa Bay. I mean, there's plenty of 26-inch trout swimming around. The tournament's Saturday, right?
Correct.
So you got 1 day of pre-fish. Who's pre-fishing tomorrow? Who's in the tournament? So we got a handful, but only one guy, maybe two, pre-fishing tomorrow. You going to go in the bay, or are you going to Fort DeSoto?
In the bay.
All right. Where I would go, if it was me, trout fishing Saturday, the bar off Ballast Point. Everybody familiar with that? It's where the old ships came in, unloaded the ballast, the rocks, and everything they had for counterweights, right on a shoal. It's right next to the channel. They show it on the chart. Anybody know the tide for Saturday?
It's incoming.
So it's going to be low. Best time to fish the bar. You see the rocks when you're going up to it. And that's what you want to do. Also, those rocks on Ballast Point, from the Ballast Point Pier to the south, as far as you can go until the military runs you out of there, that whole edge is loaded with rocks. And I mean 50 yards off the shoreline, you have rocks over there. I would go in by the pier at the end of Davis, or at the end of Bayshore. I would start there and just work my way down. I'm going to throw artificial if I'm going for big trout. Most of my big trout have been caught off like a jerk shad, something 5 inches, 6 inches long. Seems like the bigger ones are more aggressive. Now, I've also gone into the Fort DeSoto area with whitebait and greenbacks and chummed up trout. But one thing I've learned, I mean, a lot of times, is you can fill a trout up quick chumming. So if you're going to chum, few pieces of bait. Watch them go out there. Make sure that they're well away from there. You get trout boiling, you want to start throwing those baits out there. Don't keep going with the chum. You'll fill a trout up real quick. Used to be able to fish McDill, and one of the creeks there in the winter would be loaded with trout in a deep hole. And that's where I would suggest you look, is your deeper edges right now, even though we're having 80-degree days. If I wasn't going to fish upper Tampa Bay, I don't know a ton about big trout from here to Port Manatee on the east side. I'm not as familiar. I'm sure that island, I went with Dave Marquette, you know, early springtime like we're in right now, and I've been to that Port Manatee Island on that back side. and the Bird Key there, but also the clam bar. When you go straight across from Port Manatee, where St. Pete kind of turns and heads to the west, where both of the bridges are on the Skyway, there's bars that run inside there. One of them they call the clam bar. It runs down the causeway. I'd be on the deep side of that area right there. And I would run from bridge to bridge. Everybody's familiar with that causeway, right? That goes over to the Skyway. You got the Skyway, and I don't know the names of the bridges. You got a low bridge, and you got a taller bridge.
Yeah, one's Meisner Bridge.
Meisner, I think, is the big one.
Yeah.
So I would start up there by the big one, and I'm talking 150 yards off the shoreline. Starting on a low tide is really what you want. Because for one, nobody's going to get stuck. If you go in there and get stuck, the water's coming. So you know you're going to have plenty of water. I also believe we're right near a full moon. I went fishing Monday, and it was a real weird bite. Caught one of everything and a lot of nothing, you know. I mean, we caught one blackfin, one red grouper, one scamp, 3 or 4 different kind of snapper, one of each. You know, it's kind of a weird bite. So you're going to be on that same type of bite around the full moon. They just, when I offshore fish and inshore fish, they tend to bite a little bit different. But I would work that bar super hard right there. All right, if we're at the low bridge, which is the middle bridge, right? You got the big bridge, which you said was Meisner. Then you got a small bridge on the causeway. Then you got the Skyway. You go underneath the big bridge, and you're heading, let's say, to Tarpon Key. There's an island, which would be on the causeway side, which I'm not sure the exact direction right there, which way you're headed, but it would be the causeway, it would be on that side of that channel. On the south side of that island, it's a deep hole. I've run a 30-foot boat in there and trout fished before. Dave Marquette took me there a couple years ago. We caught some really nice, I'd say 22 to 26-inch trout right in that area. And it's almost, I think it's almost directly across that channel from what they call Cow and Calf, which are the 2 small islands off of Tarpon Key to the north.
It's right behind the toll booth.
That's a good spot.
Yeah,
That's a real good spot.
And I would hit all those keys right there. Tarpon Key on a low tide, unfortunately, you probably have to run in there on a plane. So make sure you do it early. I think they got signs up. I've never read the signs, but I think the signs have something to do with running. But if you don't, you know, you don't pay attention to them, who knows? Like that offshore license. You know, I wanted to make a real quick comment. Well, I've gone to those meetings that we're fighting for our rights, and they've really, what they've done is they've turned us fishermen against each other. And they say, you're inshore, I'm offshore, he's a head boat. And they've divided us, is what they've done.
It's their tactic.
It's totally ridiculous what's going on with red snapper. The state realistically should do exactly what Louisiana did. Said, we don't need you. We don't need your money. We'll manage our own fish. And their season's open from now, when they change the rule, to the end of the year until we tell you different. And that's where I went to catch red snapper. Because the fishery here is going more towards, you follow the money, that's what it is. People with the most money are the ones getting their way. A perfect example is that whole ordeal that went on in Boca Grande. The locals in Boca Grande were tired of seeing these out-of-town guys come in and be on TV. They said, oh, the jig's hurting the fish. They shouldn't have detachable. Save the tarpon. Well, the same law they pushed for and paid for, the main guy pushing for it got cited for it.
Yeah. 2 of them.
Both of them were cited for detachable jigs. And that's exactly what they fought for. So it shows you that what you're hearing is not really what's going on. And we should all stand together as fishermen so we can continue to fish. You have to fill out a license to go offshore. Does that mean if you don't get one and your buddy calls you with a 39-foot CV and says, I got the fuel, let's go, that you got to go, well, I got to see where my license is? I gotta go call and get my license. We should really stand together. CCA is a great organization. They're fighting for us. Most of these meetings they have are when we're at work. They know it. Or they have it in Key West. They go down to Key West and have a meeting, all of them together. The Gulf Coast Council goes down to Key West. None of us are going to take a trip to Key West in the middle of this and, you know, continue being able to work. It's crazy, is what it is. So get involved with the CCA. Those are the guys really fighting for us. Back to trout. Fort DeSoto, deep holes. If you're coming underneath the Terra Verde Bridge, I don't know the name of the island. There's an island right out to your right, kind of southeast. Big island. You can run the shoreline there. Somebody asked me earlier, give away Mike's spots where he was catching them. I can tell you where a lot of them were catching them. Go down that shoreline, come underneath the Terra Verde Bridge, head to the north. Stay next to the houses. Follow that canal all the way to the very back. Stay in the deep, fish in that deep edge the whole time as that tide comes in. You know, big trout are one of the hardest things to catch. I suggest light drag. They got soft mouths. I'd use a big jerk bait. I'd use something dark, black and gold. You know, that's
shut up, you guys over there.
I'll tell you guys.
That
Not
your
to-
table over
not
there
to interrupt Mike.
sucks.
The boundaries are inside Egmont Key. Tiger?
Yes.
Boundaries are inside Egmont Key. Me personally, not to interrupt you, Mike, some of my best trout fishing, good catches and decent size, are Anna Maria Island. You know, it's a reach out of here, obviously. But the northern side and the inside of Anna Maria Island is incredible trout
Is that
fishing.
in the boundaries, Tiger?
Egmont,
Yes.
yeah. So it's
Egmont,
barely there. Topwater baits. Angry trout down there on topwater baits. 4th Street, jerk baits, topwater baits. And even what I call the Meisner Flat. I don't know if anybody knows what the Meisner Flat is, but just south of the Gandy Channel out there, what do they call that? Hula Bay now is what that's
Yes.
all called. That big
Picnic
flat out
Island.
there. Some mean trout out there. So, yeah, good, yeah, definitely
know,
let's do it back on the inside of those islands. Jerk baits, topwater. Trout early in the morning, guys. Little light ripple. They hate those topwater baits.
How many people are live or shrimp? Don't use live shrimp. People. There is a couple spots right outside of Bishop's Harbor that are perfect live shrimp with about 2 feet a leader under a popping cork. It's tall grass. It's deeper water than what you're used to now on the flats, but there's big trout hanging in that tall. The grass is some grass that University of Florida planted over there, and it's 8 feet tall and it goes from the bottom all the way to the top. It's almost like the kelp that you see on the West Coast,
Good habitat.
and it's probably about 100 yards by 100 yards. It's right
They're not
outside.
there anymore.
What's that?
They're not there anymore.
They're gone?
I'm reading what you're saying.
But if you go out there anywhere on those flats too, with that popping cork in about 2 feet a leader underneath it, with a live shrimp with like a number one hook, circle hook, all day.
Now, I got a question for you, Tiger. You were talking about slinging in 27-inch redfish, and I started thinking, looking back at those weigh-ins that you and Sean do,
Those are pre-fish.
27-inch redfish on the board. Now, I'm one of the sponsors, and y'all make the board. I mean, you catch the fish, you're in the tournament, but I'm just wondering, when do you get those
When we pre-fish, we catch them all. It's when we pre-fish.
Don't pre-fish anymore. Just
That's
go
what I
fish.
tried to tell Marlo. We need to stop pre-fishing. I got pictures to prove
That's
it.
what you get for showing up with a Bass Pro Shop.
Bag. I know. Trust me, I know. When I get on Mahoney's boat, I'm known as Bag Boy.
I've had to order a couple bags in for Tiger. He doesn't have a bag.
No. I took that Bass Pro Shop bag after I got my Plano bag from Mahoney's, and I literally put lighter fluid on it and called on bottom. Because I'm not dealing with it anymore.
We don't have any proof of that, but that's what the story is.
You know, and I'll tell you something else. If y'all have spots that are go-to spots that you know you're going to catch trout, but you say to yourself, I've never caught a 25-inch incher there, a 22 incher. You know, you got to believe that where there's smoke, there's fire. The big one's there. He may not be right in with those. He may be. Usually they sit on the outside. If you ever notice catching big snook or big trout, when you're chumming and you're fishing an area, usually see that big boil way in the back that you can't reach. A lot of times that's those bigger fish, which are, they do just like a deer. You know, the dumb deer walk in and eat the bait. The big dog's back there 100 yards looking, seeing what's happening as he walks around. Well, big fish are the same way. They don't want to use that energy. There should be a ton over there at Fort DeSoto. I mean, any of those islands, any of those deep holes. Somebody said something about Google Earth. It's great to look in the area you want to fish. You can actually see the potholes. You can get numbers off of them, GPS headings and all that, and go to those holes that look good. But I do know inside from Terra Verde all the way out to Fort DeSoto is going to be good trout fishing in that deeper water. You're definitely going to get on them there. Like Matt said, behind the Egmont, the bar I was talking about at Ballast Point, they call Long Bar coming off the Manatee River, which is inside Egmont, this side of Anna Maria, so you're in the boundaries. That bar, where the tarpon show up early, right where it drops, that whole edge is shell.
That's a beautiful edge too. It
Lots
reminds me a lot of Boca Grande there.
It's right where the river drops out. So, I mean, with those spots there, you're going to spend all day. And a big trout, it can be caught anytime. You know, it's not just an early morning. Early morning, it's great with a plug. You know, but all day I'm throwing a jig. I'm probably throwing an 1/8 ounce head, letting it sink slow, working it slow, just seeing what they want to hit. If I got live bait, I'm walking out and throwing a handful out, looking for the big boil. Trout, a lot of times, make a popping noise or just a boil. Unlike a snook or a red, you'll see both of those are totally different.
One thing I've noticed too when I've been trout fishing, especially on live bait, or even if you're throwing artificial, you'll get into a school of them. It seems like every time you cast in there, you guys are pulling out 16 and 17 inches at a time. Throw either a little bit further away from them, or to the left or to the right of them by at least 50 yards, and that's typically where the bigger ones are. You'll never find a bigger trout mixed in with all those 16s and 17s. That's one thing I've noticed with trout. The sizes, they'll stick to their sizes and stay together, and the bigger ones are always on the outside.
And not mixed together. That was the point I wanted to make. In an area, if you get a big one, it's highly probable. He's very territorial. There's not going to be another large trout in that area. Back in the day when I was doing a lot of trout fishing, a lot of artificial, we'd carry little jugs, little water bottles, some rope, little weight. You know, you drift the flat, you know, you're being quiet, you catch one, you throw a jug, you come through, you catch another one. Then you can come in and set up in that area, set out some live bait, some shrimp, depending on the time of year, some white bait, work that area pretty good. But if you get a big trout in that area, I would not sit in that area looking for another one. Say we got a co-angler on the boat looking to place as well. Move some. Not huge, but get out of that area a little bit and do the same thing. Work it and pound it up a little bit, see what you come up with. But trout seem to me to be very territorial. If there's one big boy in the area, there's probably not a bunch more. Now I'm not talking, 18 to 20 inches. I'm talking that 24 incher and plus. You get a 24 incher or plus trout, relocate some. 100 yards or better.
And it's not only a pothole you're looking for that trout. I can think about coming into Tarpon Key with a real shallow boat, and you'll see where people have run across the flat and tore it up with their prop. Those big trout love sitting in that grass on those. Some of them you'll see dual engine. It looks like a four-wheeler trail through there.
Laying in that trough.
Where they cut that out, you'll see those big trout. And a lot of times you're not looking, don't look for it before you cast. You see that trail going up there, cast it out. I mean, all the way back to the boat, because those trout will get up next to that grass, I think it's turtle grass, and they'll actually kind of roll over them where you can't see them. But you drop that jig down on the bottom and you're bouncing it up and down, he's going to come out of there and hit it. Real good spot over there at Tarpon Key is all those potholes. Yes, sir.
Like, did you say, look like dual tractor, like wheels go through there?
Yeah, like when a twin engine boat, well, it's probably going to be like out here with 4 trailers. Santiago calls for a table of 7, let us know here. I heard that was the last thing the restaurant heard. Santiago, party of 7, tables ready.
One other tip with the trout, guys, especially if we're drifting a flat, and not to interrupt you again, Mike. Fish are nose into the wind and tide. All right, and they're not going to take a bait coming past them or coming to them. So be thinking about that as you're drifting or setting up. Those fish are going to set up in a wind and in a current, looking for something to come by or to ambush to. So you're going to get better bite versus bringing it past them, bring it to them.
You know, I'll tell you another spot over there by Tarpon Key. The rest area, is everybody familiar with that rest area that's right before the Skyway Bridge? Just off of that where people park or whatever, sometimes you'll see them fishing. That trough in there is a super good spot for big trout. But it's going to be getting there first. So whatever spot you're going to go to, have you something in mind that hopefully nobody else will be there. Whether you get up early enough or maybe it's something that they don't hit as much. But those trout, the big trout, are going to hit better without a bunch of boat traffic running over them. For sure. Yes, sir.
We've got a lot of people in this room from Apollo Beach and Ruskin. Tell us about this area.
The easiest way to find that I've known, Dad and I, some of our best days trout fishing when we first started fishing this area, is there's 2 things you can use. You have the parachute when you're drifting, or now Power Pole has their own. If you have a Power Pole, they have a device you can sit there and put on there. You can actually start on one of these sides of the flat, get on the flat, don't throw your angle, don't put your Power Pole down, just drift across the flat, and as you're going, either live bait or just keep throwing out there. Just keep throwing out there. That's the easiest way to find trout. As soon as you catch up on one, if it's a decent one, you know you can sit there and keep moving, or if it's one of those little schoolers, you can stop, put the Power Pole down there and fish it for a little bit, throw 15 yards, 20 yards that way, 20 yards that way, but the easiest thing is just to start drifting the flat. Change up what side. Am I going to fish in, am I doing 3 feet of water, or am I going to go all the way to the manatee markers in the 6-foot area of the water? And just sit there and do it all. The best place that I've seen on this side is Cockroach Bay, the channel right there in front of Cockroach Bay, all the way down to the Port Manatee right there. All the way down to Port Manatee. You have that
Down the bar?
down the bar.
On the outside.
On the outside. Down the bar. Or if you're going to fish north of Cockroach Bay, they have, if you pull up Google Maps, they have it, there's a sandbar that runs parallel with the mangroves, okay? You have the inside where you can sit there and you can run a little bit, it's a little bit deeper water. You have the outside, which is a little bit better. If you get on the outside of that sandbar, especially as that tide's coming in, and you Power Pole down, you find the sandbar, there it is, and then you'll see a little bit deeper water on the other side of it. You Power Pole down, and then you start casting over to that other deep area on the other side of the sandbar. Just get ready. I take my daughter whenever she's off of school and we go fishing. I take her there every time with a popping cork and a live well full of shrimp, and she'll beat me every single time because she's patient. She'll cast it out there. She knows to pop it twice real hard in the water, make that popping cork sit there and cause a little bit of clatter, because that little bit of clatter actually mimics other trout feeding, and it'll bring trout in. And next thing you know, she'll sit there and fish on. I've seen Dad sit there and throw it in this one certain spot just north of there, and the girl that we had on the boat asked him, did you throw it right in his mouth? Because before he even hit the water, he had to fish on.
I'm going to tell you, sir, I want to answer your question in a different way that you weren't really asking. In my opinion, in a tournament in this area, I'm moving away from it. We're just coming out of winter, where the manatees are all over that warm water discharge. All they're doing is eating up the grass those trout are trying to stay in. I'm moving out of this area. I hope you have a boat, and I'd recommend you move away from this area, further south like Tiger's saying, a little further north, or a different direction, because I feel those manatee feed on all those grass, and it really hurts that trout habitat here this time of year.
We were out there today and there was like 4 or 5 manatees just popped up right next to us, just feeding.
Wheaton Island is not a bad spot either. If you go right out, go to the markers. A lot of good grass. Wheaton Island, which is straight across, if you go straight across the bay here. Wheaton Island's this side of Gandy. That side of the Wheaton Island is what we call it.
Of course, be careful. I think we're looking at some weather here coming up at us. So you guys
And
be
it
safe.
also depends on the boat you have.
Yeah.
Can your boat float?
40 foot, 4
Hey,
inches, you can go anywhere.
Is 10 inch in the water, you know, or do you need a couple feet? I can tell you right now, that Ballast Point bar, that'd be the first place I'd hit. If I was in the tournament, I'd be leaving from Davis Island and go straight there. And I'd work it for 2 or 3 hours, because I know the big ones are there.
I think
Not
those
a ton of
rocks
them.
heat up with the sun, keeps the fish close to it. I think that's a number one spot.
And there's some redfish over there too that are this big.
Yeah.
In that neighborhood.
Yep.
Now, Joe's Island, if you're not familiar with that, that's further down.
Fish over there. No fish over there.
It's
No fish over there.
Anyway, it's that way.
That's a mountain Port Manatee, right?
A little further down, almost to the bridge, you got the,
What's that little bridge cut
on
out?
275, you've got the ticket booth there, the toll booth. If you can see that from your boat to your left, that's Joe's Island. It's a little cut that goes back in. If you want to fish on the outside of that island, because there's some nice spot holes all the way down in front of it.
It's all oyster shell, too.
And it holds a lot of
Anybody fishing
trout
out
on the outside.
a kayak?
No, I'm talking on the outside, not on the inside.
I launch at
it's a
4th Street. Is
Yeah.
that in the zone? I launch at 4th Street across the bay, especially if you have weather,
It's a good flat.
because it's a
4th Street.
concealed area right there. And there's plenty of deep water back in there, 4th Street and Interstate. If you look on a chart, all that stuff back there, the Corps of Engineers dredged that all the way back. There used to be a little crab shack or something on that creek 20, 25 years ago. But that whole area right there is nothing but an awesome edge. It comes out and just where they dredged is super deep. And you'd probably be out there by yourself. You know, good place to launch right
Good place
there.
for a
The
kayak in the wind.
edge of the road.
Then if there is weather where it's blowing, you can't get out in the bay, and you live on this side, you can't get across there, you have cockroach bait proper back there. That you're out of the wind, you're not gonna be in super deep water. I think the deepest back there, Josh, is what, maybe 5 feet in certain spots. The rest of it's anywhere between 2 and 4 feet, and there's plenty of trout back there. It's where you come out of the boat ramp, instead of going to the right and going on out to the bay, you just keep going left and follow it on back.
Don't forget about the river trout.
Yeah, and I was trying to keep them out of the river.
Now, if you're not gonna go that far away, you don't wanna make the trip, the mouth of the Manatee right here, if you get this island, the main island right here in the
That's
center,
good trout spot.
right back out in front of the 100 yards, right out to there's some markers out here, some makeshift buoys, if you will.
Manatee or the little manatee?
Little manatee.
Little manatees
Right
right
out
here,
here,
it's right here.
right outside here.
That's little manatees. we say.
Yeah, that's not a bad
Josh, I got a
spot at all.
question for you. Them big trout gonna be in
Josh said there's no trout.
the big man, what's Devil's Elbow in the Little Manatee River right now?
I'll tell you where it is, because
Deep,
I'm not
deep
gonna,
down big shrimp?
I won't be fishing the tournament, which is sad, because I wish I could, but I got a trip. But I will tell you, for anybody who wants to fish the river, stop at that wish mark for a jump point.
Sure.
Because that place holds a lot
Always
of big
holds trout.
Oh,
Always
Every,
holds trout.
every
That's
tournament,
about.
every time I fish this tournament, we usually get a 24, 26.
Where? Say again. Where?
It's right out there in front of Shell Point. You can't miss it.
As you
There's
go
a bar
in, to the
about
entrance of
size
Shell
a football field.
there's a big bar out there
Right in the middle.
on the inside. That's where
It's
he's
in the
talking.
mouth of the river. I tell you, it's worth, if you're going, if it's too windy and you can't get out to where your good spots are, just go over there, throw some shrimp under a cork with a jig head.
What he's saying is just before you come out of Little Manatee and have to turn north to come this way, that bar there. Is anybody familiar with Devil's Elbow in there? As you come back the hard turn, that area holds some good trout. Usually at the time of year you can't keep them, unfortunately. There's some good trout in there, but you're gonna need to get down, a little weight, a little shrimp.
I'll pitch
Fun
it a
fishing
little,
regardless.
I'll pitch it a little bit of advice. Those who are pre-fishing, and really don't have an idea of where to go and kind of what to do. Tiger kind of hit it right on the nail there. It was just kind of mostly drifting. But there's a lot of times that I have scout days. Being a full-time guide, I don't want to always put pressure on the fish.
Sure.
So I just drive the boat around half the time. And if you get south of cockroach on those bars, okay, right now we're getting into a temperature change. Water temperature is going from where it was to a lot harder than what it is
Yep.
now. Fish are still kind of iffy about warming up all the way,
Flesh.
going out to their summer spots, or staying in where their winter spots are. They're kind of in the transition period. And a lot of these fish are holding right on top of the bars. So what you want to do is if you're going to scout, if you're going to look for fish, you don't really know where to go, get on the bow of your boat. Get a guy on the bow of your boat, put that thing in idle, and cruise all the way down the end of the bars. You'll see them. If you find them, don't fish them. Come fish them the next day of the tournament. That's how I do all my
If
tournaments.
FW be on the bow, so if you see him, just get down real quick. Some of you are sitting up there.
Pay attention.
I have a tip, one tip. Tiger, what size trouts? 1 to December 20.
26.
12 inches.
Oh, 12 inches. Yeah, 12 inches.
12 inches. If you catch one,
December.
take a picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a horrible day. There was 1, 2, 3 trout turned in. There was one of the kids caught a bigger trout than what won the adult division.
Yep.
Take a picture. There was,
Good advice.
Martin, what size was yours you caught?
You never know.
14 inch.
Martin caught a 14-inch, could have won the trout part. It just doesn't.
That's a good point. If you're in, you're in.
Yeah, last year, King of the Beach, springtime, 480 entries. We caught a 26-pounder. We went and weighed it. We were in 22nd place. So it shows you, just like he said, if you're in it, you never know. And don't believe radio talk, radio fish.
This
You know,
guy,
oh, got a monster. I mean, I'll put it on you.
This
I'll
guy-
make you feel so bad, not even have fish. Man, this ain't big.
hey, this guy has kept me out fishing till the last minutes of a tournament, telling me he's got me beat. And I knew I was ahead. And he had me coming to the scale at the last
It was
minute
a total
with
to
nothing.
motivate him, so he
But
wouldn't give
with
up.
I wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
Of course, he's at the dock. He's pushing him and go, I got you, you better stay out there and catch another one. So the moral of the story is, if you're in the tournament, you're in the tournament to win it. Fish it hard, have fun, don't give up, bring what you got. You never know. They call it fishing, not catching.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I've got a question. The fellow was talking about a barge down there, going on the cocktail range, certain lot.
It's a sandbar.
Pardon?
It's a sandbar.
Sandbar.
Well, when I fished down there, there's a big flat all the way down that way.
If you look,
Maybe 2
it's
or 3 feet of water.
a flat, but if you look at a map or if you go to Google Earth and look, you'll see a little bit deeper water here, a little bit deeper water here, and a stretch of sand that runs all the way down.
There's a series of bars.
Yeah.
There's an outer bar with a trough, and then an inner bar with a trough, and then another bar where it's all shallow going up to the shoreline. And those fish, depending on the tide, will stage in these waters, either moving up or moving out based on the tide in the bay. And crustaceans.
They're in their barge here.
Yes, sir.
All the way down.
All the way down. Depending on the tide, you know, we've done some redfish tournaments in the past, and we would kind of get as far as we could in there in some extreme shallow water boats and start chumming, because we know the fish are coming. You get your baits out, you start chumming, few at a time, depending on if we're trout fishing, red fishing, we're trying to bring them all up, and those fish will be coming in or out as that tide goes. So know your tides, get a good idea of your water, and keep a bait in the water at all times.
If they won't bite, throw a cast net on.
Make sure you get a custom cast net from TA Mahoney Company.
Says TA Mahoney's all.
Exactly.
That little slip in the law there with the gill nets, I got me a couple days out of it anyway, legally.
You know, one of the baits that I use in our kayak fish, you got a little bit of wind and stuff like that, it's an artificial. And I didn't really ever use hard plastics, but one of my captains, he uses Mirrodine minis. And those things are, watch out for the hooks, because they're coming up in your hand, you got a problem. But they're money when you got a little bit of a chop and you can't, you're not using our live bait. Mirrodine minis kind of a good little bait.
They swim.
Just twitch.
Yeah, really.
Twitch.
I haven't caught a lot of fish on them. I've fished them, but just coming through the water, you know if there's something in the area, they're going to eat it.
They put off a nice shine, if you will, in the bait. Looks almost like a live bait.
What did you call that?
Mirrodine mini. It's a little mini bait, not so big.
They have a regular size one, the minis seem to work.
Minis
for
work
us.
good, and you can still cast them a little distance, and they're just he uses those with nothing, he can't get anything else to work, and I've seen the guy sit there and pull them in. You know Sean, Nurat, that guy, he just crazy, so they work.
Another thing you can do with those, if you're fishing from a kayak, if you're going from spot to spot, just throw one out and drag it behind you.
Yeah,
You know-
well, I don't think you're allowed to, I don't know if you're allowed to troll or not, but that's whatever your rules are, whatever.
Your dad fishing one time was trolling with that new, he had the, what was the name of that lure where there's two, look like a whole group of.
Live target.
No, it's not the live target, it's not the Alabama.
It's not the
brand.
bait ball?
No, it was it Lure Logic that makes makes that one, there's a big gear with a hook, or Logic Lures. Was it your dad that was trolling and ended up catching 2 redfish or 2 big trout doing that?
Yeah.
He was sitting there trolling along in his kayak, and had his off the bat. So he over here to sit there and tell the story, and pulls in 2 monster. Was it trout or was it redfish?
I think they're a trout, I think. Don't quote me on that.
Ridiculous. He thought he was sitting there, it was 2 of them. So you never know. So when you're going, you can go. Anybody got any more questions? Spots, tactics, definitions to some of our terminology for all the Yankees.
You got a picture of a trout?
What's that? Trout's the one with all the spots, not just the one spot. There's a lot of spots on it.
If you catch a 20-inch sugar trout, does that been pretty good?
20-inch sugar trout would be a nice trout.
I'm telling you. Yeah. Especially with a turtle.
Make a good sandwich.
They eat well. I'll tell you something. Whatever trout you catch, as long as it's a legal trout, bring it in.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will catch a 16-inch trout and not bring it in, and sure enough, that trout just might win the tournament, or 3rd place, 2nd place. So.
I lost an IFA kayak tournament one time, so I caught a 15, 16-inch trout, photo release, and my confidence said, no, I'm just going to get a little bigger one. Well, guess what? The rest of the day, they were all 14 inches. And if I'd have kept that trout, I'd have won one of those tournaments. Never giving away a Hobie kayak. It was a couple $1,000. So I've learned my lesson from what he just said. Every fish counts. You just never know. So.
Nothing else? No more questions? You guys got anything else?
Good luck, everybody. I'll see you Saturday afternoon.
Thank you so much for keeping